In the name of Almighty One God, who is most merciful and beneficent, my name is Dr. Abu Abdullah, and I am researcher and qualified from International Islamic University. I started a series of lectures, contribution of Muslims in different arts and science in the medieval time, in golden time. What is the purpose of these lectures? Why I am recalling those old days when Muslims were pioneers in science, in art and other things. Because I want to tell nowadays Muslims that what we are doing now and what is our skill, what is our leadership, what is our educational qualification, and what we are doing nowadays as compared to those. Those people are pioneers of science and arts and other educational skills. My purpose of explaining and recalling those contributions is Renaissance of Islam again, which was in golden times. So let's start the next lecture. It is contribution of Muslims to agriculture. The scarcity of water has converted the barren Arabian Peninsula into a vast desert which has never yielded any substantial agriculture produce. Her scattered population had always to fall back on foreign supply of food grains to supplement the dates and the little corn growth in their own lands. Agriculture in Arabia, which has had the distinction of being the cradle of the great prophets of the world, has been very primitive and was confined to those places where water was available in the form of springs. Taif, a hilly place, is known as the Garden of Hijaz, where besides grapes, apples, figs, pomegranate, and dates, wheat is also cultivated. Medina, with its springs and wells, is a green spot in a vast desert, and dates, wheat, and barley are cultivated there. The great prophet of Islam, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, had left behind him a group of selfless people whose sagacity and magnanimity, faith and unity, spirit of sacrifice and services won for them laurels not only on the battlefields but in almost all branches of human activity. Agriculture was Agriculture was no exception, and as early as during the reign of the second caliph of Islam, Arabs had made considerable progress in agriculture and had introduced many beneficial measures for its advancement in their dominations, including Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Hijaz. I'm talking Hazrat Umar. Writing about the Spanish Muslims in the outspoken book, The Intellectual Development of Europe, John William Draper says, not only did they attend to the cultivation of plants, introducing very many new ones, they likewise paid attention to the breeding of the cattle, especially the sheep and horses. To them we owe the introduction of the great products rice, sugar, cotton, and also, as we have previously observed, nearly all the fine garden and orchard fruits, together with many less important plants as spinach and saffron. To them, Spain owes the cultures of the silk. They introduced the Egyptian system of irrigation by floodgates, wheels, and pumps. It was during the reign of the second caliph, Hazrat Umar, that the Arab conquest was extended over Asia and Africa. Arabs were confronted with the new problems which the administration of such a vast empire had brought in its wake. They provided a test for the Arab genius and the manner in which they grappled with the different problems, including the exploitation of natural resources in their domination, dominions provided beyond that they were matchless both in war and peace. Hazrat Umar Farooq the Great had fixed the rates of land revenue according to the type of land. He charged 4 dirhams on 1 jarib of sown wheat. I'm sorry, had fixed the rates of the land revenue according to the types of the land. He charged 4 dirhams as 1 jarib of sown wheat, while he charged 2 dirhams for a similar plot of barley. Nothing was charged for pastures and uncultivated land. In this way, he systematized revenues which before his time were charged haphazardly. Different rules were framed regarding the revenue of Egypt, whose agriculture output depended on the floods of the river Nile. According to reliable historical sources, the annual revenues of Iraq amounted to 860 million dirham, an amount which has never executed never exceeded after the death of the great caliph, though he was very lenient in his collection. The main reason behind the easy realization of revenue was that the people had become very prosperous. He had introduced many reforms in the fields of agriculture which we do not find even in most of the countries of the modern times. One of these was abolition of landlords or zimindari and subsequent disappearance of the evils which were being wrought on the poor tenants by the vested land interests. When the Romans conquered Syria and Egypt, they confiscated the land from the tillers of the soil and allotted it to the big nobles, churches, and the members of the royal family and the armed forces. Hazrat Umar, upon conquest of these countries, returned the land to those local inhabitants who were rightful owners. The just and benevolent caliph was exceptionally generous to the tillers of the soil, and he even issued strict orders that no other persons, including Arab soldiers who had spread all over these countries, should be granted and piece of land for cultivation purposes. Such steps taken by the second caliph of Islam restored confidence among the local inhabitants, gave a great impetus to the advancement of the agriculture in those countries, and contributed to the enormous increase in agriculture products. The tenants became prosperous and their standard of living was with, raised, which led to the easy realization of the land revenues by the custodians of the state. According to a French historian, the liberal policy followed by the Arabs in the fixation of revenue and their land reforms have greatly contributed to their military consequences. It was due to this generous policy of the second caliph that the Christian Alhamdulillah. It was due to their generous policy of the second caliph that the Christian Qabtis of Egypt, who were farmers, always sided with Muslim Arabs in preference to the Roman Christians. The great caliph was not contented with these reforms. He worked out beneficial schemes for the advancement of agriculture and constructed irrigation canals, wells, and tanks in his vast dominions. He established a public welfare department which looked after these constructions, works, and further various beneficial schemes. The famous historian Allama Margazi says that more than 1,20,000 laborers were employed in such works throughout the year in Egypt alone. A number of canals were constructed in Khuzestan and Havas during this period. So please keep on watching my channel, Dr. Abu Abdullah.